Hey YouTube friends, my family and I fly out to America in less than 48 hours. We've just got packing lists and things everywhere, and the house just feels quite chaotic but excited at the same time. So we're heading away in the hottest time of the year here, and I couldn't be more grateful that we're heading over to the US into the snow. We've got 19 days over there, including some time in Whistler, which will be so lovely. If you're going to escape Southeast Queensland, February is definitely the time to do it. So I'm feeling really grateful for that. A lot of my friends and family are saying, what are you going to do with all of your plants? How are you setting them up to help the plant sitter? And I thought, you know what, that's probably something you guys are interested in as well. How do I make sure all my plants that I put so much love and effort into, how do I set them and my plant sitter up for success while I go away and enjoy my holidays and not spend the whole holidays worrying about my plants? There's so many different ways and there's so many different variables on how you can set up your plants when you go on holidays. So definitely, if we were going away in winter and I had less plants, I wouldn't do this setup that I currently have. I would actually leave them where they are, and I would just give really clear instructions. I worked out I've got about 8 sets of grow lights around our house, and at this time of year, being so hot, it's storm season. So we only need the slightest break in power, so just a power surge during lightning, which happens quite frequently at this time of the year, and it resets the timers. It actually turns my grow lights off. I didn't want the plant sitter to be worrying about grow lights and resetting timers and that sort of thing. So I thought, look, I'm going to go old school. We've got that great back patio area that has the filtered light. It has the clear perspex that the light comes through. I've got about 30 plants that grow out in that area happily all year round. Actually, it's one of my spots that I put plants if they're struggling. So I thought I'll just be really strategic about where I place my plants. So I've moved all of my plants outside, apart from a handful of plants that I've left in our ensuite. So for example, my pink princess philodendron and some of my begonias, they just love the humidity in there, and I really don't want to put them outside. I can just see them drying out if I put them out there. So they're the only plants that I've left inside. The rest of my plants I've either put on our front patio, which also has a clear perspex, or on our back patio. And I guess I'm really fortunate that I have that set up. But please don't think that you need to do the same thing, because everyone's house is different, everyone's plants are different. The length of time you're going away on holidays is different, and also the season that you're going away is different. I feel like I've had a repotting marathon over the last few weeks. I've really transitioned into the self-watering pots and the semi-hydro setup. It's something I've been wanting to do. I've been researching it for months, and this holiday has been a great excuse to actually get into action and get it done. So for the last 2 or 3 weeks now, I've been replanting. It's already made such a difference to my plant care routine. It's just making things so much easier. For me, 2025 is all about simplifying even further my plant care routine. Actually, I'll show you the self-watering setup, and it doesn't look pretty, but it is so practical. So all of my plants that are in a 20 centimeter pot or smaller, I've transitioned into this because these were the plants that I was having to water at least 2 to 3 times a week at the moment. So I think my setup cost me less than $40 to do all of my plants. I got everything from Bunnings. So I just got a selection of clear pots. I think 20 centimeters, 15 or 13 centimeters, and then 10 centimeter pots. And then these matching little saucers to go with them. I've been experimenting with MabGrow probably a good 8, maybe even 12 weeks now. Some of my plants have taken to it and are just thriving. So this is the MabGrow down here, the stones. Some of my other plants, not so much. So what I've done with those, Emma at Good Growing and Claire at Jungle Haven, have been doing in their videos, is they do 2/3 their normal potting medium, which for me is that aroid mix that I talk about, which is the cocoa core and the perlite. And then I've been putting the MabGrow 1/3 down the bottom. And when I place the plant in, you place the plant above the MabGrow. But when I've just initially planted it, if I'm just filling the water down here in the stones, I know that I'm not drowning the roots of the plant. And this setup is working really well for my plants that haven't necessarily taken 100% to the MabGrow straight away. I'll also show you when I go outside, I actually have some of my plants that are growing in complete no drainage in this same system. So I'm loving this. But for a lot of my plants, I've just got 100% MabGrow in this same setup. The beauty of these pots, I don't know how well you can see how they've got the lines. So I've just suggested the plant setter just to fill to the second line, and then that's absolutely fine. I brought this guy in to show you. Firstly, it's one of my favorite philodendrons, but it needs the water. You can see it is such a thirsty plant. So when I checked this yesterday, it still had a little bit to go, but it's completely dry. So this morning I'll just top it up to the second line. Just a tip, something that I learned really quickly: if you pour really fast, it fills up really quickly. So you sort of have to pour slowly, wait and watch, but really has simplified things for me. And I actually had a neighbor who I was helping with some of her plants over Christmas, and she messaged me yesterday and said her plants are going really well. And the combination of the clear pots with these sources have absolutely been a game changer for her. So that just made me so happy as a fellow plant mum. The other way that I prep my plants, go around a few days before and just make sure I'm clipping off any old leaves, just tidying the plants up. I do a proper pest control. So I have proactively pest controlled all of them with the heavy duty stuff, which I really don't like doing, but I don't know any other way to protect my plants, and I don't expect the plant sitter to be doing that while I'm away. The other thing that I do, so we fly out Sunday, so Saturday I'll give them a really good drink. I've been making sure that I put plant food in with every single water. Once again, don't expect the plant sitter to be feeding them. The plant sitter can just water them while I'm away, because I've made sure that I've kept their feet up during this growing season. Let's pop outside and have a look at my setup. I haven't had to film this area from this angle for you guys before, because normally when I'm doing my videos, I just film on this bench. This is where I do most of my planting, and you can see underneath I've got my buckets, which have all of my cocoa core and perlite and mabgrow in it. I think the important thing to show you here is, firstly, see the clear perspex that I talk about, and I've got that on the front patio as well. So when I was placing plants out here, I've had them out here for about a week. My husband came up with the brilliant idea. We went to Bunnings and we got 2 barbecue tables, and it's just made so much of a difference. Like, about 8:30 in the morning that I'm filming this. And so the way the sun works in this area is that the light starts here of a morning. So this is the nice morning light. And then as the day progresses, the sun moves this way. So these plants get at the lunchtime sun. And then by the afternoon, the plants over in this corner where the fiddle leaf fig is get the most harsh afternoon light. By the way, how cool is this fiddle leaf fig? It is so much taller than me. I have to actually reach up to touch it. It's almost touching the roof. I'm going to have to give it a trim, actually. We had so many arguments when I first got it. This is about at least the 3rd, maybe even the 4th location that I tried it in, but we finally found a spot for it, and wow, it's, as soon as I found this location, it's just gone bananas, and it doesn't stop. The only problem I have with it out here is the grasshoppers love it, so I am constantly spraying it for grasshoppers. But apart from that, it's just thriving in this spot. I'm so happy that I found it. So in this corner, so they're in my semi-hydro mix. That's my beautiful Monstera. Love this guy. My MVP for 2024. So they're all in just normal pots, and at this time of the year, they need to be watered about twice a week while I'm on holidays. I just have to be really careful that the sun doesn't cut across the side of the house and go directly onto these leaves, because that will definitely scorch them. I'll just watch one more time today and make sure I've got that light right here. But I think apart from that, I think I've got all of the plants right. So let's head over. I'll just show you. So these guys here in the middle, they'll get the most light. So they're getting light now, and they'll get light for most of the day. So I'm a little bit worried about the bamboo there. Actually, now that I'm looking at the light, I'm probably going to move that guy today. It's so big, I don't actually know where to put it. But the other plants that I've got there, so my Monstera, it lives right near our window. It's quite used to a lot of light. I've got spring onions and basil there. They, of course, love high light. They'll do really well there. This Hoya that's here, it's actually the one that lives on our TV cabinet and gets the afternoon sun, so it's quite used to bright light. So I thought it would actually also go really well in this location. It's amazing the difference that just a few meters make. So the light over here, they will get some light, but it's not going to be as strong. So these guys get a more subtle light, and the plants on this table, they'll just get the morning light on this table. So they get the most gentle light out of all the plants. And then as the sun moves across during the day, they very quickly go into shade. So they'll get enough light, but they're not going to get the strong light that the plants, as I move around here, will get. And as I'm showing you guys, let's move that bamboo. I've just worked out a really good spot for it. Okay, that's much better. It's similar amount of light to the location that it gets normally in our house, so I'm much happier with that. All right, so let's move over to my timber bench. We'll start off with the things that I've got up the front. So this is the plant food that I mentioned. So for my plants that are just in pots, that it doesn't matter, I don't need the water to stay clear or aesthetic in any way. I love this. So I actually get this from Dr. Green Thumbs, and I feed this to all of my plants that are just in pots that are in my semi-aroid mix. They seem to go really well here. So I try to feed my plants this at a minimum every second water. And then I use this one from Gathera. Someone must be going past. Hang on, we'll just pause the recording. The dogs just won't stop. So I've been waiting for about 10 minutes now. I just hope that my microphone does a good job and blocks most of it out for you guys. Otherwise, I'm never going to get this filmed. I've got to get some packing done. The reason that I decided to try this is Gathera is the company that I get my grow lights from. Absolutely not sponsored. My channel is way too small. And they specialize in hydroponic growing, particularly for food. And people were raving about this. And I figured if it's growing food products really well, it should do really well for my plants, and my plants are just thriving. They just absolutely love it. And finding a hydroponic fertilizer that doesn't make the water murky was a bit of a thing for me. It's just an aesthetic thing. It's just something nice about having nice clear containers. So this is working really well for me. But I wanted to show you this guy as well. So this is an example of not getting the sun right. So I moved this into my recording room because I moved all of the plants outside out to here, and then I realized, the background of my video is going to look pretty boring for you guys. When I put this plant back in the room, I didn't think about, I guess, that the sun comes directly through the window. Even though it was only an hour or so of gentle morning sun, you can see it was only there. I think it probably took me about 3 days before I had the time in between packing and holiday stuff to film. And look at this. But already, can you guys see that? The brown. I don't know, my camera's doing funny things when I zoom it in. Maybe if I zoom it out. Look, the plant will be fine. It's still healthy. Although I feel bad that I've burnt the tips of this syngonium. It's actually a really good example to show you guys of what I'm looking for when I'm moving my plants around to make sure that I've got them in the right light. That's a really quick sign to say, hey, Mel, you've got my light wrong. You've put me in too brighter light. It's only a little bit of brown on the end. I'll see how it looks when I get back. I love my hydro plants. My hydro plants are some of my favorite plants. I'll put this guy just down here in the gentle morning light location and see if it can forgive me for putting it in the direct light. Wow, it's 8:30 in the morning and I'm already sweating. This is my heavy duty bug kill. I don't have a specific brand that I use because I really prefer not to use it. I don't like using heavy duty chemicals, but when it comes to having all of my plants outside, I'm not going to be here for 19 days. I have hit my plants with this. As I just grabbed it from Bunnings. It's fungal and it's also bug kill. I much prefer using the gentler stuff, so either the We the Wild products or things that I make myself. But I think in this case, so that I don't come home to my entire plant collection completely decimated by pests. What have I got at the moment? Mealybugs on my chili bush, grasshoppers and caterpillars everywhere. The caterpillars in particular, my peace lily and my pothos that are out the front. And so and my spider plants get absolutely hammered. So every morning I'm going out there and I'm finding the caterpillars and I relocate them to our garden because they're part of the life cycle. They actually turn into some beautiful moths. So I don't want to kill them, but I really don't want them eating my plants either. The dogs are starting again. I'll just turn the video off and I'll be back. So this guy, as I showed you, needs water. And all I do is I just slowly put some water in. So this actually has the hydroponic fertilizer in it. Can you guys see that? I just slowly let it drain through, and that's almost right because this guy's thirsty. I might just give it a little bit more, and that's it. That's filled to just roughly the second line, and that'll be good for a few days. This guy doesn't mind a little bit of extra light, so I'm going to put it on the middle table. This is the only self-watering pot that I have in my collection, and it was only because I needed this length. So it actually sits on top of our entry wall, and I wanted it to be long and grow down. And so this particular grow pot has little legs. Most of them have little legs that go down into the water, and then the water reservoir sits here. But see, you can't see how much water is in there. I just find because you can't see what's going on that I've had root rot issues with this style of pot. So when I water this one, then I tip out the water. So the hole's just there. I make sure I lean it forward and tip out the water. So I don't treat it as a self-watering pot at all. So 2025, not buying any more plants, but I am going to still play with plant accessories, and particularly all about making my plant care easier and more efficient. So if anyone has tried different styles of self-watering pots apart from my DIY style, I would absolutely love to hear your experience with different styles of self-watering pots, because I certainly will be doing some trial and error during 2025. This is my Swiss cheese plant. I've had it in our ensuite under the grow lights, and it's just gone crazy. As part of repotting, I actually put it on a trellis. It's the first time it's been on a trellis because it was actually just hanging down in the bathroom. But you can see this was a really good example of if a plant's not getting enough light. So the top of the plant was higher up in the bathroom and closer to the grow light, and then as it was growing down, it was obviously growing further and further away from the grow light. So the bits that were close to the light, the leaves, even though it was a small plant, are bigger, but the bit that was growing down away from the light This is more leggy. So see how the leaves are more spaced apart and they're smaller the further they grew away from the light. So there's quite a big space between the leaves compared to the bit of the plant that was closer to the light. And the leaves are actually smaller as well. So I've got 4 plants that sit on top in our main entry. I need a chair or a ladder to get up to them. And I am one of the clumsiest people that I know. There is a skylight, but it really doesn't give enough light all the way along the wall. So I knew I needed another solution because I was getting up there 2 or 3 times a week to bring my plants out and sit them out here to get this nice light. And I thought, you can't keep doing that. And I was taking them down to water them. So the first thing I did is I got a grow light, which made so much difference. I didn't have to keep bringing them in and out for the light, but I still had to bring them out to water them. And that's when I saw a video. So Claire from the Jungle Collective, one of my original planter YouTubers that I've always watched, I noticed that her and Emma from Good Growing were doing this. So this is in full no drainage. And what they were doing with their plants is they do the bottom third. I haven't done this one very well, I'm looking at. I've probably done a bit more than a third, but bottom third, the mab growth or the pond. And then the top third, I've just got my aeroid mix, the fine and the coarse cocoa core, and also the perlite. And so treating these exactly like my self-watering pots. This is the healthiest this pothos has ever looked. It has made so much of a difference for me, time-wise. But also the plant is absolutely thriving. So I'm really, really grateful to Emma and Claire for sharing on their channels how this is working for them, because I don't think I ever would have tried it. It's a great solution, just like my hydro plants. I don't know, there's something for me. I love growing plants in clear containers because it gives you a really good visual for how they're going. But there's just something nice aesthetically about it as well. Previously, before I knew about this method, I would actually get a glass container and drill a hole in the bottom. My husband's a tiler, so he's taught me how to drill through the bottom of glass containers, but I don't need to now. So this setup's working beautifully. And just as a hack, if you try and buy a plant pot this size, like something that's marked as a plant pot, it's not necessarily cheap. So this is actually a kitchen canister from Kmart. It might have been $10 or $15. If you don't have any recycled jars or you can't find anything in a thrift shop, try looking at kitchen canisters from some of your big box stores. It'll save some money instead of buying something that's labeled necessarily as a planter. I couldn't be happier with how this pothos is going. The only thing to consider, just remembering that leaves on plants are like mini solar panels. They're solar panels that absorb the sunlight for plants to grow and produce the sugar. When the leaves get dusty, they don't absorb as much light, and therefore they're not producing as much food, not growing as much. But I am not a plant parent who's ever going to dust a plant's leaf. I'm just not. I fully admit to that. So all of my plants that are in normal draining pots, so every second water, I put them out here in the back area and I give them a good hose. I found that's really good for preventing pests, but also for getting dust off the leaves. So probably about once every month or so, I'll bring these 4 plants out and I'll make sure that I give them a good hose to keep that dust off the plants. So that's the main time that I'll need to bring them down. But this system's working amazing for me, and I think after the holidays, I'm going to transition a few more of my plants into this system as well. So the last I wanted to show you is my hydro plants, which are absolutely my favorite. I love hydro plants. So I thought I'd show you my fiddle leaf and also my monstera, just to give you an idea. So I did fill this one yesterday. It has dropped already, actually, because it's out in the nice sun. So whenever I'm filling hydro plants, people often ask me where to fill to. And my general rule of thumb is I just fill so that the roots are below the water, below the water line, trying to leave as much of the stem out of the water as possible to avoid root rot. So see how I've just made sure, can you guys see that? The roots are all under the water, but I've left a good amount of the stems out of the water. And that's how I try and treat all of my hydro plants. So same for this fiddle leaf fig. When I first started growing hydro plants, it's really tempting to fill it up, but I found that was the quickest way for the stems of the plants to start rotting. I basically just make sure that that lower part of the branch is in the water and the rest of it is out of the water. And I've had a lot of success with fiddle leaf figs in hydro. This was one of the branches I had to cut off the big guy behind me, and I'll do that when I get back from holidays. I think it'll be touching the roof again, and I'll just do the same. I've been growing this guy this is probably September. I cut this off in September, and so that's how much roots it's grown since. I can either leave this in the hydro, they do really well, or I might transition it into my pond or maybe my no drainage setup. But there's lots of different things that you can do with this. Although right at the moment, I'm loving it in this vase. Let's go back inside. I hope you've enjoyed the tour guide. I'm always looking for useful tips and tricks, as I imagine other people are watching. So if you've got any holiday tips and tricks on how you prepare your holidays, particularly if you're in a different climate to me. Always love to hear your comments. I read every single one of them. My channel is small and they really make me smile. And until my next video, take care and remember you've totally got this.